Hey guys, how's it going? We're back again. Advent of Code 2018, Day 3. Let's go. Day 3. No matter how you slice it, the elves managed to locate the chimney squeeze prototype fabric for Santa's suit, thanks to someone who helpfully wrote its box IDs on the wall of the warehouse in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, anomalies are still affecting them. Nobody can even agree on how to cut the fabric. The whole piece of fabric they're working on is a very large square, at least 1,000 inches on each side. Each elf has made a claim about which area of fabric would be ideal for Santa's suit. All claims have an ID and consist of a single rectangle with edges parallel to the edges of the fabric. Each claim's rectangle is defined as follows: the number of inches between the left edge of the fabric and the left edge of the rectangle, the number of inches between the top edge of the fabric and the top edge of the rectangle, the width of the rectangle in inches, the height of the rectangle in inches. A claim like 123 at 3,2 5 by 4 means that claim ID 123 specifies a rectangle 3 inches from the left edge, 2 inches from the top edge, 5 inches wide, and 4 inches tall. Visually, it claims the square inches of fabric represented by £, and ignores the square inches of fabric represented by period in the diagram below, like that. So here we have a diagram with 5 pound signs wide, 4 pound sides tall. And here it said it was 3 inches from the left edge, so there's 3 dots to the left of the first pound sign, and it says it was 2 inches from the top edge, and that's why it appears 2 dots below the top of the first pound sign. The problem is that many of the claims overlap, causing 2 or more claims to cover part of the same areas. For example, consider the following claims: 1 at 1,3 4 by 4, 2 at 3,1 4 by 4, 3 at 5,5 2 by 2. Visually, these claim the following areas: 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. You have a bunch of 1s here in this area, a bunch of 2s here in this area, and then they overlap right here, and then these 3s don't overlap anything. The 4 square inches marked with X are claimed by both 1 and 2. Claim 3, while adjacent to the others, does not overlap either of them. If the elves all proceed with their own plans, none of them will have enough fabric. How many square inches of fabric are within 2 or more claims? Get your puzzle input. Alright guys, you know the drill. First we hit the stopwatch and then we start coding. So let's get it. Let's get this bread. Now I'm gonna make a new file here. Call it day 3 part 1 Ruby. What should this function be called? Let's see. Let's look for a keyword here. Slice it. Fabric. Let's name this function fabric overlap. And then we'll use it a few times here. So this is gonna be our input, and hopefully it spits out the right answer. But we won't run that now. For now, we'll run a simple one with these examples here. And what we need is for it to spit out something like this. Here the question asks, how many square inches of fabric are within 2 or more claims? And for this example, the answer is 4, because there are 4 X's here. Okay, so let's get it started. This function will be accepting a string. Let's make sure it's working so far. Ruby, day 3, part 1. We've got that. Now let's make a claims array, and all it's gonna be is just string split up. Let's see what's inside of claims. No, that's not what we wanted. See if that does anything. It does. Okay, now we've split up the claims in appropriate strings. So with each claim, we need to gather some information about each claim, and the things provided are the ID. It's called an ID, right? Yeah, claim ID 123. So we'll get the claim ID. Okay, let's call it parts. So let's split this claim string into parts, like this, and then let's just print out parts. Let's print out claims like this. So the whole claims array looks like this, and then each parts array has this. The first item in the array is the ID, so we could say ID equals parts1. And then the next thing we need to gather is 3, that's the left, parts 2. Actually, the second element in the array is kind of useless. We don't need that actually. So we'll get the third thing here. And this is actually 2 parts. Has 1, 3, and then some other stuff. Let's do this. Position will be the third thing in the array. Let's just print out position here. See what we get. So these are the positions. Now we want to gather just the left parts, which would be, well, let's make positions an array, and we'll just split that string up on the comma, and now we can print out positions. See what we get there. Now we have 1 and 3, 3 and 1, 5 and 5. Now left will be positions first. Now we can print out left. So now we have left 1, left 3, left 5. Now we need to do the right, no, not the right, the top. This is like the top margin here. We want 3, 1, and 5. Now let's say top equals positions dot last. But notice how there's like there's a colon here. So we only want everything besides that colon. So let's do, so remember that in Ruby you can have a string, and the string can say hello, or the string can say goodbye, and you can get everything except the last character if you access the string and you use square brackets and you put in a range from 0 to -1. 0 to -2, that's what I meant. So then if you say a square brackets range of 0 to -2, you get hell. And if you say b square brackets 0 to -2, you get goodbye without the e. So we're going to use that same logic over here. So here we have a string. Like this, and we just want everything except for the last character. We don't want that semicolon. 0 to -1. Actually, I think I'm just going to convert everything to integers just to make it easier on ourselves, and just to make sure that the toInteger method works. On a string like this, we'll make a this string, and then a toInteger should give us 1, and it does. What happens if we do something like 102? Yeah, okay. So that line works. So we don't need to do any string searching like that. But now we can print out the top variable, and let's print out what we get. So here you saw that the position was 1, 3, and we get left 1, top 1. Oh shoot, do this wrong? Oh no. I just forgot to change the variable. Okay, so now that we're actually printing the top variable here, and we're printing the left variable here. Let's try this again. Here the position was 1, 3, and we get left 1, top 3. Position is 3, 1, and the variable left is 3. The top is 1, that's correct. And here we have 5, 5 with left 5 and top being 5. So we're gathering our variables correctly. What else do we need to gather? Okay, now we need the width and the height. Now, if it says 5x4, that means it is 5 inches wide and 4 inches tall. Okay, so we need a width variable and we need a height variable, and we can get that from this last item in the array. So we could call this dimensions, and it'd be the last item in the array. So now let's print out dimensions, make sure we've got that correct. So yeah, 4x4, 4x4, 2x2. But I actually want to separate these out. I need everything before the x, and I need everything after the x. So I'm gonna split on the x string, and now we should get different dimensions here. Now we get an array of 4, 4, 4, 4, and 2, 2. Now I can start collecting the width and height variables by saying dimensions first and dimensions last. Width 4, height 4, width 4, height 4, width 2, height 2. So it looks like that's working. Now the next part here is make a sort of chessboard. So we can make a board variable, and it'll just be an array. And if we want to show something like this, then this variable would have to hold a bunch of rows in it. And then in here, we could have periods. No, you know what? I think these elements can just be strings. We can have periods like this. And then in here, if the left is 3 and the top is 2, then you go to the third element, 1, 2, 3. No, the top is 2, then you leave 2 of these elements blank, and you go to the third one, and then because the left is 3, you go past the third character, and that's when you start putting pound signs in instead of periods. And then you slowly be filling this in until you finish with one line. This is 5 wide. So then you go row by row until you've done the full height. The height is 4, so we'll do 2 more rows like this, and that's how our data will change. I shouldn't be using strings here. So this is the main idea, but the way it's going to be is these things are going to be an array, and these will all be comma separated. Arrays are more flexible like that. I'm going to put everything inside an array like that, so it makes it a little harder to read. So our board will look, this is the main idea, this is easier to read, but in reality, this is what the board will actually look like inside of memory. So that's how we're going to do it. And we're going to use arrays because if I have an array here, well, first I have a string, right? And it says hello. If I make an array, put it inside the b variable, and I split like this, now I have a variable like that. And then if I call a position that doesn't exist on it and assign it to something like O, it has no problem doing that, and it just fills everything else with nil. So I guess nil will represent these little dots, and if there's something there, like a string, that'll represent one of the claims. That's what we're gonna do. So anyways, I'm gonna put this in the notes up here so it's not in the way of my functions, and I'll close this. We can look at that later. So let's make a board. So now that we have our things, we have to start placing these things on the board. So remember, like we did before, first we go from the top, we say top plus 1. Here, let's just take this example here. Claim 1, 2, 3 at 3, 2. Here the top is 2, and so we skip the first 2 rows, and then we land in the third row, and that's when we start painting our claim here. So that's what we're doing here. We're skipping the first X number of rows, and then we start painting our claim. If board top is nil, set it to a blank array. Okay, that just makes sure that these things are there. Okay, and so once we are there, we're currently in this row here. Row equals board top plus 1. Now we want to skip the first 3 things. In this case, we want to skip the first 3 things because the left is 3. So to do that, you would say row left, and that will bring us to the 4th thing, because here we have left equaling 3, and if we say row, get the index of the 3rd thing in the row, it'll actually give us the 4th thing because arrays are indexed by 0. And now we start placing, what should we place there? Well, here they're using different IDs for the different numbers for the different claims. So I guess we could do that. Let's put the ID right here. Actually, in order to get this 5 wide, we're gonna have to do something here. We're gonna have to loop through. So let's loop through a range between the left and then left plus 5. So left and then a range of left plus 5. Well, not plus 5, it'd be plus the width here. Okay, then you can do in each function, and then we could call each number inside of this loop the index, and then we access the row with an index, and we set that to the ID here. Okay, now that makes 1 row, and I guess we could test this out just to see what that looks like. So after this is done, print board, see what we get. Ruby day 3. Oh, string can't be coerced into fixed num. On line 54. Alright, remember the width and height, they're still strings, so let's convert those to integers as well. Okay. So Okay, let's just try this with this one here. Oh, forgot the 5x4. Let's try to pretty print this. Okay, so you see the row here is blank, the row here is blank, and the row here is blank, and that's representing these two rows being blank. Actually, I don't think you need to do this you don't need to do this +1 because of the whole array starts at 0 thing. Take it out from here too. Okay, so here's the first row, here's the second row, and here in the third row it looks a little different. It's an array now, and you have nil, 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 and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 IDs. So here our first row is too wide. There's 6 IDs and there should only be 5. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change this range from inclusive to exclusive like this, and see what that gives us. Okay, so nil, 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 and now we have an ID here. Good. So that's good, except that's only one row. We need more rows here. So what I'm gonna do is this logic here, I'm gonna indent it and wrap it around a loop, and it's gonna get another loop in each loop, and then inside of here we'll call this row index. And so here the beginning number is top, just like in the same fashion here where we have left triple dot left plus width, we'll have top triple dot top plus height, so that we could go in this instance 4 inches high. We'll loop through this thing 4 times by saying top range top plus height. And now we replace this with row index, and then we'll print board afterwards. See what that gives us. Did I save? Okay, I think I need this if statement is in here as well. So row index, place it here and place it here. And all that says, if this row is nil, set it to an array, and then we can start treating it like an array and start doing all this array logic here. Okay, now we got the first row blank, second row blank, third row with 3 blanks and then 5 IDs, fourth row 5 IDs, fifth row 5 IDs, sixth row like that. Okay, so it is the correct height now. We have 4 IDs vertically and we have 5 IDs horizontally. Okay, so we are correctly going through this. Now the next step is for it to do this one. This is just the practice one. This is just with 1 claim example, and here we have a 3 claim example. We want it to use the same board for all 3 claims and then find all the intersections, overlaps. So to do that, we'll turn this one off, and then we'll take this exit out, and then we'll run this and see what happens. Okay, so here you see, here, we shouldn't be printing board after every claim. We'll just print it once here. So in the end, this is what the board looks like. This is the first row, it's just nil, and that represents all these dots here. And then the second row should just have 2's for 4 inches. So here we have nil, 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 and then 2, 2, 2, 2, and that is correct. And then here we have 3 inches of nil, and then 4 inches of 2, 3 inches nil, 4 inches 2, that's correct. Here we have 1 inch of nil, and then 2 inches of 1, and then 2 inches of x, and then 2 inches of 2. And over here we have 1 nil, 2 1s, and then 4 2s. So this middle section here is not being recognized as overlap. So we're missing some logic here. So where would this logic go? We're saying here, we're finding the board. If the board is nil, turn it into an array, and then we fetch that board. Okay, so before we set one thing inside of that array to an ID, we should check. We're gonna say if row index, if it exists, say if the string exists, make this thing, set it to O. O stands for overlap, and if it doesn't exist, we'll set it to the ID that we're currently using over here. Okay, so let's try that. Now there's logic that checks if there's something already there, change it to O instead of an ID. But if there's nothing there, change it to an ID. Let's try that. Okay, so now we have the same 2's over here, and now we have 1 nil, 2 1's, 2 O's, and 2 2's. And we have the 3's over here in the corner, and we have 1's all the way over here. And that's what it looks like over here. Okay, so now we're building the board correctly with multiple items. And the next step is we need to count how many O's there are. Let's see, how would we do that? So board.sum, no, inject, no, reduce. How does the reduce method work again? I forgot. Ruby reduce. So I think I give it a starting value, and I can pass a block here, and then each element inside of this array will either be nil or an array. So I'll say element, I'll just call it item. No, okay. So first, sum will be the first thing. So sum will become 0, and then item will be, well, each item inside of this array. We're going to iterate through this array, and we'll say if item is not nil. Okay, we're gonna have to break this out into multiple lines just to make it clearer. Okay, if item is not nil, do something, but if it is nil, well, I guess you don't need anything there. If item is not nil, then try to count. Here, let's just make an array here in IRB and figure out how to count all the O's in here. So a dot count O 2. Okay, so that works. So item count O. So that will give us, you know, how many O's there are, and then we add that. Okay, overlap. Let's just call it overlap. We put board, and then we put overlap. Okay, let's try that. Oh, didn't like that. Okay. So as I thought, we need an else block here that just does sum plus 0. So that if this thing is nil, here, let's just switch this. Okay, so if the item is nil, then, you know, take 0 and then just add 0 to it. But then it'll go to the next item, which is an array, and it'll see that this item is not nil, so it'll run this else block, and then it'll count how many times there is the string O inside of the array, and here it'll be 0, so count will be 0, and then we'll keep 0 plus 0. And then it'll go to the next line here, and it'll still be 0, but then it'll hit this line here, and it'll find 2 O's, so count will be 2 this time, and then it'll do 0 plus 2, and then sum will change to 2, and then on the next line it'll find 2 again, so now count will be 2 and sum will be 2, and it'll do 2 plus 2, and then it'll give us 4. Then it'll find 0 again and 0 again, so it should return 4 here. So let's try that. Overlap 4. Okay, so we're correctly counting the number of overlaps now. I think we are ready for the big one. Don't show the parts, and don't even show the claims. Don't print out the board either. We just want the overlap, okay? Wow, that was fast. So let's see if this is the answer. Hopefully it is. That's the right answer. You are 1 gold star closer to fixing the time stream. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Let's see what the stopwatch does. Wow, 45 minutes. I did try to take it slow today because I wanted to really guide you through my thinking process. I felt like in a few of my previous videos I didn't explain anything too well. I was just thinking inside my head without, you know, speaking out loud, and if you're watching that, I feel like you could get lost. So that's why I took a little longer. Thanks for watching. See you next time.